Good morning. Oh, wow. Thank you. So much energy. So again, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to the kickoff meeting of the Carbon Hub. So first of all, I would say I'm taking credit for the weather. The whole week was crappy and today is great. It's because we're talking about something very important, and we in fact climate change. So before we jump in the meeting, I want to have just a brief safety moment to say that there are no fire drills scheduled today here. So if we hear fire alarm, it is the real deal. We have to evacuate. The emergency exit is the door through which you enter. We're going to be gathering in the Moody lot, which is between here and the baseball field. And the safety officers, there is one up there helping us with the projector. And then the building manager, Alicia, also will be there with us. So before we jump into the rest of the meeting, I just wanted to thank you for coming here. So the Carbon Hub is about building a community to answer some of the most pressing problems we're facing as a society, namely climate change. And so there are a lot of questions. How do we curb CO2 emissions while still meeting an ever-increasing demand for energy? How do we decarbonize the industrial sector? How do we lightweight and electrify our transportation systems? Are there potential technological solutions out there that would make that possible? What would it take to adopt and deploy them at scale? So those are some of the questions, and there is an urgency in answering them. And so we've been saying within the Carbon Hub team that we feel like for the last few months we've been flying a plane while we're also trying to build a plane, but we do have to do it. So if there are two key messages that you can take away, the first one is that, yes, it is feasible to take this pathway, to move forward, and now is the right time to completely change the way we use hydrocarbons. Instead of burning them, let's split them into hydrogen, which is a clean source of energy, and viable carbon materials that can help us house, move, feed, and clothe people. So before we jump into the panel discussions that will be answering some of these questions, we're going to have a few welcoming remarks by Rice administration. First with Dr. Shamoo, the Vice Provost for Research. Then we will have Dr. DesRoches, the Dean of the School of Engineering and the incoming Provost at Rice. And finally, Dr. Rossky, the Dean of the School of Natural Sciences.
Thank you, Marie. Good morning. Welcome to Rice University. I think my charge is very simple. It's to welcome you and to sort of, in some way also, then Marie added on, and also explain the mission and the charge of the Carbon Hub, which is an interesting challenge for this talk. But I think what we understand is this is a global challenge. This is the kind of big challenge that, in our youth we dreamed of, right? To be in a place at a time when our ideas would matter in a significant way in changing the world. The problem is that when people get together who want to change the paradigm, who want to shift thinking, they encounter a lot of resistance from the usual way of doing business. We all go to the same grocery store typically because it's convenient and easy. We don't investigate all the choices around us on a routine basis to see if the H-E-B is still better than the Randalls, right? We don't go around and survey and make trouble for ourselves. So there's a natural tendency of human beings to go as it goes. But I think in this Carbon Hub, we want to do things really differently. We want to have a partnership with industry and academia that is going to build essentially new ways of collaborating on these new technologies and new approaches, which I think are going to encounter some skepticism and some resistance within our own organizations even. So part of the challenge as we get together as a community is to actually put our heads together and say, okay, we have good ideas, but we've got a long vision. We want to convert this carbon into usable carbon products and into hydrogen. But at the same time, we want to build a supply chain that goes beyond just the first technological changes. And I think that's what's different. And I think that's what's different about Carbon Hub. Carbon Hub is about building that supply chain out beyond this first step. So it's not a one-on-one interaction. If you want to do Professor X works with Professor Y to carry out a research project, that's easy to do. But we have a much grander vision here about building this collaborative relationship through time. And I think in that way, this is different than what typically a partnership between industry and academia looks like. So, and I think the beauty of the Carbon Hub is that it's brought together a lot of different companies and a lot of different universities to think about this problem, because no one industry and no one university has the answers by themselves or will be capable of delivering the solutions. So in particular, I'm very impressed with the coalition of universities that have been brought here, UCSB, Wisconsin, Penn State, from the UK, Cambridge. From Italy, we have the University of Parma and the University of Milano. I think that's exactly the kind of international collaboration on the international higher education front that speaks to this big idea. And on the company side, all of you here today, I think represent our partners in this sort of long developmental path. So I think the challenge is real. I think it's important. And the university, Rice University, has committed significant resources in the form of not just, we've got Marie doing all the hard work, so I can stand up here and tell you how awesome it is, and Kelly, who's probably hiding over there somewhere, but also our faculty that really, really want to solve this problem and work with you in a really different way. And I think that'll be a challenge, and I think it'll be a lot of fun when we get there. So with that, I'll throw it to my incoming boss, Reggie DesRoches, who's going to be the new provost at Rice University come July 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Yousif. And again, I want to extend my welcome to all of you. And I don't think I've seen such a broad set of stakeholders at a meeting like this before. So really, I want to commend Matteo and Marie for their leadership in pulling this group together. We have representation from industry, large and small, City of Houston. I know we have media here. We have consulting firms represented. We have congressional representatives from the offices of Fletcher and Crenshaw. As Yousif mentioned, we have numerous universities from around the world that are part of this, and we also have various government entities here too. The Carbon Hub, which is a Rice initiative launched in December, and is an example of the unconventional wisdom and bold creativity that Rice is well known for, and an example of how we work across schools and departments with numerous universities and industry and government stakeholders to solve some of the world's most pressing problems. This project, as was mentioned earlier, will fundamentally change how the world uses hydrocarbons. Instead of burning them as fuel and releasing carbon dioxide, hydrocarbons will be split to make clean-burning hydrogen fuel and solid carbon materials. As a civil engineer, I can imagine the day when steel and concrete structures are replaced by structures made of carbon-based materials that are lighter, stronger, and more durable and can transform the nation's infrastructure, as well as many, many other applications. This project aligns really well with the School of Engineering Strategic Plan, I'm sure the School of Natural Science, as well as the university's vision for a second century, second decade, better known as V2C2 in many ways. These plans call for working across disciplines in unprecedented ways, going beyond natural science and engineering to engage with the social sciences, as well as the Baker Institute of Public Policy. These plans call for engaging with industry and government partners to solve pressing problems. Again, I'm pleased to see so many stakeholders here today to work on this with us. Finally, we realize it's not enough to do great science and publish in top journals. We need to translate our discoveries to practice and to work to develop new technologies, launch new industries, and to participate in entrepreneurial activities that will have a huge impact in Houston, the state, and the world. So once again, thank you for all your support, and I look forward to a productive and fun couple of days. Thank you. Oh, and now I'd like to pass it off to my colleague, Dean of Natural Sciences, Dean Peter Rossky.
Drop this down about 4 inches. So is this working? No. Well, I'll just try to shout. I'm very, not that loud though. I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to be here. I think this is a really special occasion. And one of the things I noticed is that the slide has Reggie and I on the same slide. And that's very characteristic of the way science and engineering at Rice works. He can call up my assistant and ask her to do something. I can call up his people in Associate Dean in his office and tell them that they should do something. And we work in such harmony at Rice, partly because we're small, but it's always been the culture at Rice to work across lines. I actually have a joint appointment in chemical engineering, but my own main appointment is in chemistry. The other exciting thing for me is, I'm the scientist, right? So the classic academic scientist is somebody who goes and does something because it's fun, but they don't worry about whether it's useful. Well, that's, at some level, you always have to do that because you want to make fundamental discoveries by just trying to figure out how to engineer what you know. But this is an amazing situation where 35 years ago, these conjugated materials, buckyballs, were discovered a few hundred meters in that direction. And the idea, then carbon nanotubes, I remember hearing the first talk I ever heard that mentioned them by Rick Smalley. And now we're at a point where we know the basic science of how to catalyze the growth of nanotubes. And we have this, what is clearly, I think, the biggest problem that exists in the world, which is how to save us from all being wiped out in 50 years, right? And so this is an opportunity to bring fundamental science that we understand to directly bear on a problem which is, I think it's hard to argue it's not the most important problem because it has to do with survival of the planet and of the human race. But other than that, it's just something you could do, right? I'm delighted to see such a mix of industrial interest and academic interest, and ranging from fundamental science that we understand generally, but how to scale it up, and over to the most applied aspect, which is to build materials from the products of this process. So it has such a broad potential impact. I've been a fan of this project, which has come to reality as the Carbon Hub, since I first heard about it from Matteo and Marie. And I think it's just a wonderful opportunity and an incredibly bright future. And I thank you again for being here.